Hello students, the topic we are discussing today is issues in adolescence. Why we all are discussing adolescence? Is this stage is very important? Yes. This is a very significant stage of our entire life. This you can say that pillar of our life. Like as we see the pillar in our house which supports our entire house, this stage is also the pillar of our entire life and it supports our life like a pillar in the house. And you can answer certain questions after discussing this chapter. They are: why do teenagers drink and use drugs? What leads some adolescents to become depressed? How can depression be treated or managed? What leads some adolescents to commit suicide? Why we are discussing now suicide, and the rate of suicide in our country is really high in this stage. What makes them to do all this thing? And not only discussing what are the causes, but also we are going to discuss here how we can help them or treat them. What are the causes of juvenile delinquency? What is juvenile delinquency? We will discuss in this chapter. And the most important question, that is why the teenage pregnancy occurs and how to control it or how to manage it. Issues in adolescence. This is a very important phase, as I told you earlier, and a period between late childhood and the beginning of adulthood. It's a marks of beginning of reproductive lifespan in humans. Adolescent youth experience monumental changes in early single aspect of their life as they make the transition from the early childhood to adulthood. After entering this stage, every day becomes a challenge for them. They have to struggle, they have to fight, they have to indulge themselves in various positive and negative things to achieve what they want. Adolescents are more susceptible to conflict with family members, depression, and they indulge in self-destructive and risky behavior. What do you mean by self-destructive? Is it that destructing self or harming self? Yes. Sometimes it is also true that being destruction for self, harming self, or being a destruction or cause of a destruction for others also. Self-destructive, like they can harm themselves or they can try to kill themselves. Risky behavior such as involving themselves in drugs. Drugs are various kinds. You can see these days they go for alcohol drinking, they engage themselves in certain kind of peer group where they can involve in this risky behavior. They feel that they are enjoying their life by doing all this thing, but they don't know the underlying cause of this and how this is going to hamper them. Yes, we're going to read all this thing, how this risky behavior is going to destroy their entire life. Mood changes and negative emotionality are common during this stage. Emotionality usually stabilizes by late adolescence. But how to manage this emotionality? Do we always need to only cite these problems, or we also need to face this problem and try to manage? We have to manage this problem, or also we can challenge them and also succeed from this problem. There are some landmark definition of this adolescence. Coming to the definition, that is, according to Coleman and Henry, 1990, adolescence is a period of development and consolidation of social self, of one's own identity, understanding of the self in relation to the social world. Now, what is social world? This is the surrounding we are staying, we are involved, and the surrounding is helping us to solve our problem and sometimes which challenge us. to our development. The psychosocial context of adolescence is markedly different to that of children. Yes, childhood and the adolescencehood is totally different. How? We are going to explain this. Adults are in relationship with peers, family and society, go through distinct changes during this time. These changes sometimes positive, sometimes negative, and also helps them to learn what is right in their life and what is wrong. We all are always learning from others or also learning from our experiences. Our experiences tells us that what is right in our life and what is not. An adolescent may experience deep depression in a moment of self-criticism. What is self-criticism? Criticizing self or criticism gets by from others on the self? Yes, it is in both ways. If you are going in a way and you heard that somebody is criticizing on you, somebody is criticizing on your face, on your figure, you feel very depressed. But you should know how to tackle with that. Rather feeling depressed, you should challenge the thing and you should attempt to change that criticism. The same people will also tell you and appreciate you on the same issue in another day if you are going to change that thing. Or experience a great self-admiration when he or she excels in some task. Yes, when you are getting good marks, good grades in your class, you are going to be appreciated by your teachers as well as your peer group. These both are two dimensions of one pole. So, rather feeling depressed, you should challenge them and change in your life. The important is here your peer group, how they are going to help you and support you in your life. Some adolescents do not adapt well to the new demands and responsibilities and they respond in an unhealthy way, which leads them not to well-being. They reduce their well-being level, they reduce their confidence, they reduce their emotions and they could not able to control it. They end up with a depression. Adolescents start to disengage from parental control and begin to assert more autonomous control over their decisions and emotions. Majority of young people move through adolescence with little disturbance, yet some encounter major disruptions in the development. This gives rise to 3D in this entire phase. What are the 3 Ds? And they are drugs, depression and delinquency. How drugs, depression and delinquency is responsible for our growth and why we get this thing in our growth. To answer these questions, we have to wait for the next session's discussion. The prevalence of alcohol use among adolescents was high in both CDC survey and the sample from the AdHealth. The alcohol drinking puts adolescents at the risk for school problems, for risky sexual behaviors like failing to use condoms, for victimization and for criminal behavior. Criminal behavior such as involving in violence or trying to harm others are also breaking the rules of society and also not obeying the norms of the society. Those who use alcohol also increase their risk of being in motor vehicle and other accidents. This is a very significant thing you should know, that is, most of the adolescents die in accidents due to drinking and driving habits. The most common cause of death in adolescents in 2001. Other substance use is also a problem during adolescence. According to 2004 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, more than 10% of young age 12 to 17 were current illicit drug users. What brings them to use this drug and from where they get money to use this and why they indulge themselves in such activities? Are their parents are not worried about them? No, this is not the matter. This is a matter of holistic thing. Their parents, their peers, their community, the environment, everything is responsible for this thing. it is a multi-dimensional phase. Therefore, if we start to manage all these things, we have to manage from other aspects also. We have to see it, how can we manage from the multi-dimensional aspect. The majority of those were marijuana users, those use prescription drugs. What is this prescription drugs? They are not needed for the medical use, neither the person suffer in any disease. They just want to have these drugs which gives them temporary relief. Therefore, they want to use that drugs. 1.2% used inhalants and 0.8% used hallucinogens including ecstasy. What made them to use and where they get money? They don't want to have used this money because they don't know the value of money at that point of time. They sometimes try to steal from their parents, sometimes tells their peers to provide them, and happily the peers provide them because the peers are also belongs to the same type and same point. But here also the peer group can help them to reduce and to manage this habit. The cause of drug use. What determines whether an adolescent joins the majority who drinks and uses the drugs? Why adolescents are very attractive to certain peer groups who are indulged in this kind of activities? Parents. Adolescents are more likely to drink when drinking is an important part of their parents. As we know that our family is our primary school and we learn so many things from our family and our parents. If a child sees the same thing in the family or with them parents, they try to follow the same and they indulge in this activity. Social lives, as well as when parents are relatively uninvolved in their teenagers' life or set arbitrary or unreasonable standards for their children. The parents should say at that time that this is not the good habit, or the parents should stop drinking socially or in house while the children are around if they want a bright future for the children. This is a first and a very significant cause of adolescents, those who indulge in drugs. Peers. This is also another vital cause of the drugs use and the drinking habit. Many adolescents drink due to peer pressure and to join the company of friends. Why many adults want to be drink? Because they try to show that how cool they are and how they can spend money, and also they think that this is a symbol of their status. If they do drink, if they do not drink, or if they do not smoke, they think that other people will think that they are very bored person and they look very uncool in front of their peer group. Stress. Many adolescents drink to cope with stress. What is stress? If one person is not able to manage a certain problematic situation and face problems to solve that situation, they feel anxious, and that stimulus leads to the response of the stress. Adolescents who report frequent life stresses such as problems with parents, problems with partner, or there is a problem in mutual relationship, or also interpersonal relationship with peer group, they are more indulged in these drugs and they suffer a lot in their life because they cannot manage the situation in their life in a right and proper way. Treatment for the drugs. Because there are so many causes, a single approach is unlikely to eliminate the alcohol abuse or drug use. Adolescents who drink to reduce tension can be provided therapy designed to teach them more effective means of coping. Yes, stress. How can they tackle the stress? If they will have a proper strategy of coping or dealing with that particular stress, that will help them to reduce their stress. Also, avoid them from indulging such activities. According to Friedland 2005 and Longshore et al., school-based programs that are interactive, featuring students lead discussion can be effective to teaching the facts about drinking, strategies, and also telling them pros and cons of particular activity and resisting from the peer pressure to drink. The third problem is stopping adolescents from drinking before it becomes habitual. It is essential because adolescents who drink are at risk for becoming alcohol dependent for their entire life, and they become depressed for a longer period of time and the anxious as they are. If they are anxious in their life, then they could not able to solve the problems that day to day arise. Anxiety will lead them to a stress. Again, they are going to indulge in the same activities. Therefore, we need to stop all this thing from this adolescence. Depression, the second D of adolescence life. This is a very important aspect of adolescence, and this depression always makes adolescents to engage in so many activities. Sometimes they could not able to come out from that thing. Why? Because they are very dependent on that. These challenges of adolescence can lead some youth to become very depressed, or they go to very major depressive episodes. For this reason, they need various kind of treatments. When suffering from depression, adolescents have pervasive feeling of sadness and frustrated, hopelessness about their life, accompanied by loss of pleasure in most activities and disturbance in sleep, appetite, energy. They feel very low all over the time. They could not able to concentrate on their study. As a result, they fail in exam. Also, this exam failure make them more depressed than any other thing. If the problem persists for a longer period of time, it seriously hampers the social, academic, and vocational functioning of the adolescents. About 5 to 15 teenagers are depressed now. The teenage girls are more often affected than boys, probably because social challenges in adolescence are often greater for girls than boys. Why the social pressure is more among girls than boys? Yes, it's a question which need a definite significant answer. That is because the girl's surrounding is totally different than a boy's surrounding. Girls always need to be restricted in our culture to protect and to be a symbol of society, to be a symbol of the family. The girls always need to be reside in the family. They should not indulge in such activities like drugs and drinking. The parents think that their daughter or girls are the symbol of their status, so they always try to protect the girls from the outside the world, but they end with that the girl child is depressed at the end. How they are going to deal with it? There are various reasons, various ways to deal with it. We'll discuss it. Depression is often triggered when adolescents experience a serious loss, disappointment, failure, such as death of a loved one, or sometime if there is a single parenting. Much anticipated date turns out to be fiasco. The temperament and the belief of that adolescence. Many adolescents, though experience negative events, they never become depressed. One contributing factor is temperament. Why? If, for example, if there are two friends and suffering in the same situation, still one friend is very depressed, very stressed, very negative in the life, but other friend is not depressed, not that stressed, but try to solve and cope with that particular stress. Why it so happen? Because of the temperament. Children who are less able to regulate their emotions are as adolescents more prone to depression. Another aspect is belief system in which adolescents blame themselves for failure. Gene is also responsible for this thing. It helps to balance the neurotransmitters in the brain, the development of brain regions involved in inhibiting negative emotion, the body's hormonal responses to stress. What is a stress? We already discussed, and how to tackle with it. It is sometimes biological, sometimes sociological, and also we need to take the help from the family, parents and peers to solve it. This stress is a great involved in the depression. Stress always tries to move the person into depression, to activate depression, promoting any of these biological changes. The neurotransmitter always helps to biological changes make it during this depressive stage. A high incidence of depression and other psychological disorders is seen in parents of the depressed children and adolescents. This may reflect a genetic risk. Parenting. Parenting is a long-term process. How the adolescence is parenting happened in the family, and why this maladaptive behavior entered, and why this adult is depressed. This also belongs to the parents. Adolescents more often become depressed when their parents are emotionally distant and uninvolved with them, and the family life is very stressful due to the economic disadvantage or marital conflict. Use of punitive discipline by parents can lead to the depression. If the parents are very authoritative and never allow the adolescents to take any kind of decisions, and the child if does not have an opinion in his or her own house, then the child feels very insecure and very depressed. They develop a thinking that if I cannot rule on my life, then what will be my future? Why my parents are very authoritative on me? Why they cannot allow me to take a small decision for myself? That will lead them for the depression. Social expectations of more mature behavior. Why there is a social expectation and why we need to act a mature person? Yes, we need to act like that because our age is growing, and also we need to act accordingly our age. If an adolescent person will act like a kid or child, the other person will think that there is some severe problem. Therefore, constant pressure to live up to social expectations often causes a generalized state of anxiety. Therefore, always there is a pressure from the family side to behave in a mature manner in society. Therefore, they involve and they develop the depression. Unrealistic aspirations. Childhood aspirations are more often unrealistic, and when the adolescent fails to attain them, she or he develops feelings of inadequacy. If she or he projects the blame for his or her own failure on the others, these feelings may turn to the feelings of inadequacy. Social adjustment to other sex. Yes, when we grow up, we no need to always stay to the same sex person. This is quite impossible for others. And if we develop the same position or same problem, then others will feel bad about it. Therefore, there is always a pressure for that reason. Learning how to deal with it, learning what to talk about, how to behave correctly in social situation, how to meet a opposite sex person, how to be popular with members of other sex is a perplexing to an adolescent. While learning, he often experiences intense nervous tension, general emotional excitement. Are we not always nervous when we meet in society other people? When we go to a marriage party, a birthday party, we always be said by our parents how to behave, what to say to whom, whom to not to talk, how to laugh in a party, and how to deal with others in every corner. Therefore, there is always a pressure to adjust. School problems. When the adolescent begins to recognize the importance of education to vocational success, emotional tension often reflects why worry attitude of childhood. We always think why the worries comes to us and why we cannot be popular like other people in our school. Vocational problems. What do after leaving school? They always try to think after finishing 8th class, how would be my 9th class? After finishing my 9th class, how it will be in 10th class? Will I get first division distinction in my 10th class or not? And after finishing the entire school, what should I choose as my career? Worry over the prospects of the getting it and holding a job, dread of demanding of life, the work build out of tension which makes them always worry, and this worry leads to them various problems. Obstacle to doing what he wants to do. In our culture, it is our tradition that we always obey our parents and also we ask before taking any decisions. But in choosing the career also, if there is a force from the parent side, the child or the adolescents face a problem. It may be due to the financial limitations or the family restrictions which prevent the adolescent from doing what his friends do, often lead to the emotional upset. This leads to them emotional upset because first of all there is a separation, there is a change from school background to the college background, and also there is a pressure from the parent side what to do and what not to do, and there is a lack of interest in the parent's choice. Unfavorable family relationship. To restrict parental discipline, too little independence for the adolescent's level of development, and lack of parental understanding of adolescence. It leads to the interest in the family friction and contribute to the emotional tension. Everything you will end up with a big tension, and also the child will be not at all interested to support the problem, to support the career from given by the parents. This unfavorable situation, unfavorable relationship makes the adolescents more fragile and more disturbed. Sex difference in depression. In industrialized nation, girls are more prone to depression than boys. The cause we already discussed. In developing countries, rates of depression are similar for males and females and occasionally higher in males. Because the difference in rates of depression in males and females is limited to industrialized nations. It cannot be due to the biological changes of puberty. It is not for the biological problem, though it is for the problem of the nations. It is a problem of our environment. It is the problem of our surrounding. So, how we can deal with it, we'll discuss. Factors responsible for these gender differences include stressful life events and gender-typed coping style. Early maturing girls are especially prone to depression. Gender is intensification in early adolescence often strengthens girls' passivity, tendency to ruminate on problems, and dependency, which is maladaptive. Why this maladaptive thing come? If they could not adapt the situation, they end up with stress. If they could not able to cope with the situation, they try to solve it in other way, which may be the maladaptive way, which will lead them to a problematic life. Girls who repeatedly feel overwhelmed develop on an overly reactive physiological stress response and cope more poorly with the challenges. They could not able to cope with the situation. They end up with another problem, and which becomes an obstacle for their entire future. Stressful experiences and stress reactivity feed on one another, sustaining depression. Profound depression can lead to suicidal thoughts, which all too often are translated into action. From where this thought comes? It is due to the stress, also it is due to the learning. If they saw somewhere, if they overheard, if they saw, get to know that if we could not able to cope to the stress situation, let's quit, let's face it with living our life, which is also very affecting to them as well as to their family. The treatment of depression. Antidepressant drugs are used to treat depression, but psychotherapy is better choice for treating depressed adolescents. Is it always necessary to treat some kind of disease with drugs? Do you all agree to that? But there is another way also, that is psychotherapy, which can help you to solve your problem without any drugs. Yes, sometime maybe with some kind of very less drugs, but not to that extent as we thought. Weiss, McCatry and Valerie 2006 emphasize that cognitive and social skills approach where adolescents learn how to have rewarding social interactions and to interpret them appropriately. The best approach is prevention program to reduce the number of depressive episodes in high-risk youth. Suicide. According to World Health Organization Suicide Prevention Program website, in some countries, suicide rates among young people have increased so much that adolescents and young adults represent the group at highest risk for suicide. Why there is a highest rate of suicide in adolescents? What are the reasons? We already discussed the depression, stress, anxiety, the entire environment and the surrounding, which is responsible for this, because they could not able to cope with the situation and they end with ending their life. Major risk factors for suicide among adolescents. What are they? They are previous suicide attempt and the psychopathology. The underlying cause is that the pathology which they could not able to deal. Especially major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, conduct disorder and substance disorders. Psychiatric comorbidity, especially the combination of mood, disruptive and substance use disorders. They all are disorders which are primarily seen in adolescents. Dysfunctional personality traits, especially antisocial, borderline, histrionic, narcissistic traits and so many. Feeling of hopelessness and worthlessness. Why one adolescent feel that he or she is not worth of staying in this earth? Due to various reasons, like due to failure in life, due to problem in the family and due to various reasons. Therefore, if we need to solve this problem, we should solve this issue from various dimensions. Impulsive aggression. For example, if you are impulse certain time, like if you want to solve the problem and you could not, you become very angry and in a very hurry you take a decision to quit your life. This impulsive aggression always leads to you to end it.